Hey, this is Bruce Boudreau, and you're listening to Empty Betters with Nick, Mack, and Harrison.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 143 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host up in Wisconsin, Mac Vogel. What's going on, buddy?
Living the dream. I can say that now because I have a 9-to-5 office job, and that's a cliche. So, it's been an interesting start to the week. Had my first couple of days at the new job, so just getting adjusted, feeling a little extra tired, not used to 2 long 8-hour shifts in a row, but I guess welcome to paradise to me, right?
Oh yeah, 2 tickets to paradise. Well, you got a one-way ticket to paradise. Welcome to the party. It's a pleasure to have you.
I got home from work today, and I was like, I can't believe I have to do that 3 more days in a row forever.
Forever.
Like
yeah.
literally forever.
Yep, it's brutal. It's definitely not fun. Just want to say that Nick is out of commission today. He's feeling pretty shitty. So we are hoping that
he went too hard at the Caps game last night.
yeah, he's like, I'm not feeling. I'm like, oh, you drank a little too much at the Caps game when you beat McDavid, right? So hoping Nick is feeling a little bit better. So it's just gonna be us two today. Before we get rolling, just want to notify you guys that our interview guest for today was one of Mac's friends, actually, out in Los Angeles. Morgan Miller, LA Kings super fan, just joined us. We just wrapped up the interview a couple minutes ago. Appreciate him joining us. It's nice to get some West Coast coverage of some of the California teams. So he did a great job of doing that.
Totally. Yep. Season ticket holder, lifelong Kings fan. He knows his stuff, as you guys will find out. So we had a fun time chatting with him. I'm sure he'll be back on at some point, and hopefully we'll have more fans of all NHL teams. I love having new guests on to talk about teams that we don't get to talk about as often.
Yeah, for sure. It's always nice to get like a super fan's opinion on like their team, just because that's how, we do with State of the Union. It's cool to get other people's perspectives too.
And it makes me feel better about like my such heavy bias towards the Caps too, because I see that every fan is like this for the most part, where it's like we asked him, we're like, so are you guys gonna beat like the Wild? Marc-Andre Fleury is pretty hot tonight, and he's like, yeah.
like yeah, 5-3, no biggie.
Right, which is exactly what I probably would have said about the Caps. So
yeah, so we definitely want to thank Morgan one more time for joining us. That will be in the middle of the episode. We're going to fly through this one on a little bit of a time crunch, so bear with us. Before we get started, just want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Brackish Life. If you're like us and grew up on the water and outdoors, then Brackish Life is perfect for you. They have a wide selection of gear from UV shirts to hoodies and hats. It is Real Bay apparel made by Real Bay people. Head to www.brackish.life today to check them out. A little salty, a little fresh, Brackish Life. Let's hop into the league news right away. Matthew Tkachuk already making his headlines for the season with suspensions. He got suspended 2 games for high-sticking LA Kings' goaltender Jonathan Quick the other night. Mac, did you get a chance to see this highlight, and what were your thoughts if so?
I did. It was a really weird play. It was late in the game. He was like in the crease, and he kind of like got the tip of his stick like almost caught in like the cat eye of Quick's mask, and just like they zoom in on it, and he just ever so slightly like turns his stick over so that the like blade like flips or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he knew what he was doing for sure, because he's like kind of looking at it before he does it, and it's Matthew Tkachuk, so you gotta argue that he knows what he's doing, even if maybe he didn't. But yeah, I mean, it was a weird play. I literally had to watch it like 4 times before I was like, okay, yeah, I guess he did that. But Quick like went down in a heap. He was like freaking out. And then like later in the game with like literally like 2 seconds left, and like as time expired, they both were like in the crease, like pushing and shoving each other too. So there was a whole kind of skirmish all about it, and I think 2 games seems appropriate.
Yeah, I think anybody else maybe one or a fine, but given Kachuk's track record, sorry, I think 2 was probably expected at that point.
Yeah, they want to nip it in the bud, and they're like, "Hey, we see what you're doing. Stop doing that shit."
Yeah, yeah, but that was definitely took its way around Twitter, and everybody felt the need to comment on that one, and a lot of which are still Oilers fans, which I will always find funny. So,
Yep. We chatted with Morgan about this in the interview that you guys are going to hear, and he had an interesting perspective because he was actually at that game too. So,
yeah,
stay tuned for that.
for sure. Peter McNabb, sad news here. The former NHL player and television color analyst for more than 25 years with the Colorado Avalanche died on Sunday. He was 70 years old. Just want to give our thoughts and prayers to the McNabb family and the Colorado Avalanche organization. He had a 14-year career that saw him finish with 363 goals and 818 points with the Sabres, Bruins, Canucks, and Devils. He ranks 14th all-time among American players in goals and 21st all-time among American players in points. He was inducted into the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame just last year, so definitely some sad news here, and just sucks to hear.
Almost 1,000 games in the NHL, so hats off to him. Gone too soon. Definitely sad news.
Yep. Moving on. This one is a little bit of a eyebrow raiser. So, for those who aren't aware, it's been said that the Ottawa Senators are going to be up for sale. Their owner has definitely not been in the good graces of the fan base in previous seasons. So I think they're all looking at this as a good thing. But, and I can't remember where this was said. Was it like the late night show or
He actually went on Jimmy Fallon to talk about this.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds is apparently part of the investor group that is looking to purchase the Ottawa Senators.
He was talking about how he grew up in Canada. I think he initially said, was it Vancouver or Edmonton or somewhere else in Canada that he initially grew up, but then he also spent a decent amount of time in Ottawa, like later in his childhood or something like that. He has ties to the area. And so he was saying he has some interests there, but he also mentioned that he would need, as he put it, like a sugar daddy or a sugar mama to help him go in on a partnership to purchase it. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. I mean, I'm kind of for this happening just because I feel like if a really mainstream celebrity such as him acquired the team, like maybe he could do something with it, like make it more mainstream or like make people give more of a shit about it or something. So
especially the Ottawa Senators, not a team that like Americans I can say like know about. Like if you have a very casual hockey fan, they might not know who that is.
Well, I mean, just the fact that he's like interested in buying it has already made a bunch of people go, "What?" and Google Ottawa Senators and be like, "Oh, that's an NHL team." Like, you know what I mean? So it's already sparked interest just because he's interested in buying it. So all I can think is if he actually bought it, like more people might be like, "Oh, what's this team that like Ryan Reynolds owns? Let's look it up or whatever."
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this will also put things in perspective. I think the sale of the team, from what I saw, like an estimation, is like somewhere in like the 500 to 600 million range, like something like that.
Sounds about right.
The Washington Commanders are rumored to sell. Are you ready for this? For $7 billion.
Yeah, that's the difference between NFL and the NHL for you right there.
Yeah, and that should be.
And a team in the District of Columbia versus, well, I guess it's the capital of US versus the capital of Canada. I never thought of it that way, but
yeah. Well, it's rumored. I think the Commanders, I read something. It was like Jeff Bezos and Jay-Z are going to buy them or something like that. Like it's a wild tandem of ownership group right there. But nonetheless, moving on, the Mitchell Miller situation in Boston, we have to touch on this. It's been talked about a bunch in the media this week. For those of you who don't know, and I don't have like all the like when he was drafted and all that written down here, but Mitchell Miller was signed by the Boston Bruins, I guess over the course of last week. And there was a lot of controversy because in the past when he was, I think, like 13 or 14 years old, he was bullying a disabled black fellow student and was like, Mac, what was the thing that he did? He like took a lollipop.
He like dragged it in a urinal and like tricked the kid into eating it or something like that. And there was all
Yeah.
kinds of other like alleged incidents too. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
apparently like an ongoing stint of like pretty aggressive bullying that took place over the course of a while.
Yeah, and apparently, like when it was found out that he got signed by Boston, like the mother of the victim of his bullying, like a couple years ago, like 5 or 6 years ago, like came out and spoke and said he never apologized, and the incidents were happening nonstop, like back in the day. I don't have the information in front of me of when he got drafted. I think it was like 2020 or who drafted
It
him.
was by the Coyotes,
Okay.
and it was like he was supposed to go early because he was a pretty good player, but no one drafted him because they all knew the backstory and they were scared about the backlash, didn't want anything to do with him. And then the Coyotes like randomly took him in like a later ish round. I don't know if it was like third or fourth round because they were like, I don't know. I mean, he's supposed to be good or whatever. We'll take a chance. And as soon as they did, obviously, like everyone blew up and was like, you can't do that. Like, you know what this
Yeah.
kid did? So they cut ties with him. And then basically the same thing just happened with the Bruins. Like, I guess the Bruins thought enough time had passed where they were like, we're going to sign this kid. And evidently, no, because the
The
entire internet
whole world backlash.
exploded and was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck are you doing? And then actually, the NHL came in and was like, yeah, he's actually not even allowed to play in the NHL.
So nonetheless, that signing fell through. But when it did get announced that that was gonna happen, it obviously made its way around the internet. So, if you saw anything about that, we just kind of wanted to fill you in on what the situation was there. I think it's pretty unanimously agreed that he did some pretty shitty things, and according to this, the story, never really apologized for it. So that's a pretty shitty thing to do, honestly. So yeah, no more controversy after that as the contract fell through and the NHL stepped in, like Max said. So,
speaking of controversy, let's move on to another hot topic here. This is something I saw on Twitter and thought was really interesting. Former NHL player and current NHL analyst, Mike Rupp, had a very interesting take on a certain situation involving Austin Matthews and the Philadelphia Flyers a couple nights ago. Long story short, basically Matthews, after a play, like after a whistle, was kind of getting a little chippy with, I believe it was Travis Konechny of the Flyers. And Matthews was the important thing here is Matthews was the one that was instigating this. So, after the whistle, he's kind of pushing Konechny and, instigating with him. And, Konechny and the Flyers, tough customers. So he comes up to Matthews, like ready to fight him. And you can see like his body language. He like wants to fight Matthews. And Matthews is just kind of like giving him the wry smile and just laughing, like whatever. And so all the Leafs players come to his defense, start tackling like all the Flyers players. Matthews is the only one in the situation like not engaged with anyone. He basically just like grabs another Flyers guy and just kind of like stands there and like looks around, like doesn't do anything. And so basically, Mike Rupp made a video kind of voicing over this whole situation and saying that this is a bad look for the Leafs, bad look for Austin Matthews. And he made it clear that he doesn't think Matthews necessarily had to fight, but that it takes a toll on a locker room. And this is an interesting take from Rupp because Rupp was a tough guy in the NHL too. But he basically said it takes a toll on the guys in the locker room when you have a star player that's constantly like instigating this shit and then just like letting everyone come in and fight his battles for him. So that was a really interesting take. I'm curious, kind of Harry, what you think and also what the fans think.
Yeah, I'm a huge Mike Rupp fan. I thought he was a real good role player in the NHL. He was a Penguin for a while. And I agree with a lot of his takes. I actually do agree with him on this. You know, I get that, like the new age style, like, it's especially with Matthews, he's known for kind of smiling or laughing when people are like grabbing him by the neck or punching him in the face. And albeit like it's kind of like funny, he's the big dog on campus when he's on the ice, and he's just kind of making it known that he doesn't care what anyone does to him and he laughs it off. But at the end of the day, eventually you gotta have to like stand up, and answer the bell, and he's never really done that. And I think the interesting part is, when you compare this to some of the older school guys like Sid or Ovi, I mean, both those guys, especially against Brandon Dubinsky back in the day, just they took care of business themselves. And I agree that maybe Matthews didn't have to fight, but maybe you throw a punch or like
And
a
that's not to
slash.
say that Sid and Ovi like are big fighters or whatever. Like obviously those are dudes that have plenty of guys on their team who are there to stand up for them too. Ovi's got Hathaway and Wilson to fight his battles, but Ovi is more than capable of fighting his own battles, and he's not afraid to do it. And same with Sid, to his credit. Like he'll get down and dirty if it comes down to it. And maybe it's just that Matthews is still a little younger and a little more immature. Maybe it'll come, but I do think this is a fair criticism from Rupp. And I mean, just Leafs fans on Twitter were just absolutely like, oh, this is the worst, like biggest L take I've ever heard. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And it's like, yeah, he kind of does.
Yeah, sorry that you, sitting there drinking your Molson, watching the game in your basement, know what you're talking about. But Mike
Yeah,
Rupp, and a
literally.
former NHL player,
Coming
doesn't.
from a
Like,
guy who literally made a living off of protecting NHL stars. Like, I think he knows what he's talking about when he says, like, these guys are happy to protect their superstar teammates, but at a certain point, like, it gets a little old. And it's like, all right, dude, if you're going to instigate some fucking bullshit after the whistle, like multiple times, how about you fucking grab somebody and actually do something?
and Matthews is a big boy. I mean, he can hold his own. He's like
Yeah, you would think so.
6'3", like 205. I mean, he's a pretty decent sized guy. I would also say this, and I have not fact checked this at all. I'm just firing from the hip. I can't remember seeing a clip in my life where Matthews or McDavid dropped the gloves with helmets off and duked it out
No, I don't think so. I
with
definitely
anybody.
can't. I can't remember anything like that, or even anything really close to it, to be honest.
No, it doesn't ring a bell. Um, but anyways, obviously Matthews had to go home, rest up, and recover that night from such a hard fought battle with Travis Konechny. Well, you can also recover like Austin Matthews after not fighting Travis Konechny by wearing Kane footwear. Before we move on, let's take a second to talk about Kane footwear. They are changing the game by providing a unique shoe focused on recovery while being made from sustainable materials. The Cane Revive is made with bounce back foam created by Brazilian sugarcane. A renewable resource, sugarcane helps reduce greenhouse gases by capturing CO2 as it grows. Cane's unique bounce back foam provides the ideal balance of cushioning and support to help the body recover. Head to the link in our social media bios today to grab a pair of the most comfortable shoes you will ever own. Alrighty, I think it is time for the Morgan Miller interview, so we're going to toss it off to Morgan right now.
And it is now my pleasure to welcome onto the Empty Betters podcast, friend of the program, Morgan Miller, season ticket holder of the Los Angeles Kings. How's it going, man?
I'm good. Happy to be here. What's going on, guys?
Not much. Thanks for being with us. So we'll get to the Kings stuff pretty soon, pretty quickly. That's the main thing we're going to discuss with you. But we'll start it out how we always start our interview guests. If you want to just go ahead and kind of tell us what we like to call your hockey origin story. So like how you first got into hockey and like your first hockey memory.
Sure. I grew up like in the suburbs of LA, and there's not much hockey going on out there, but both my parents were from the East Coast, and my mom grew up like on Long Island as an Islanders fan, played field hockey growing up, and just wanted her, like all three, me and my two brothers, all three of us like grew up playing roller hockey in a league near our place. And I was a weird kid who just like loved learning stats and like weird facts. I mean, when I was probably 7 years old, I got the like stat record book from the like 03-04 season and just read it for fun. So like I
love that.
I have a lot of useless hockey information, and half of my brain is just like remembering guys.
I love that. That's like kind of a lot. I feel like super fans as kids, you know, you got all these weird stats locked up in your brain that you could probably still recite. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, my mom's favorite story to tell everyone of me being a child hockey fan was being like, yeah, 6 or 7 years old and asking her what name was funnier, Lubomir Vishnevsky or Vitaly Vishnevsky.
I love that. Yeah.
And honestly, the world may never know the correct answer to that question.
It's Lubomir for sure.
Oh, okay. We do know the answer to that question.
I guess that's true. The more I think about it, that is funnier.
So part of the hockey origin story I like to ask, especially for fans, is like, who was your favorite player, your childhood hero growing up, being a Kings fan?
Weirdly enough, it was Timo Solani.
Oh, okay.
So my oldest brother, who is also a Mac, is a diehard Ducks fan. I still don't really know how that happened. But he was a Paul Correa guy. I was a Timo Solani guy. And I mean, on the Kings, Ziggy Palffy was like probably my go-to guy growing up. But I had, in my sports card binder, I had like 4 pages of Solani cards. And then for whatever reason, my second favorite player was Bill Guerin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Worth noting that Morgan and I happen to be playing each other in fantasy hockey this week, and his team name is North Korea, spelled like Paul Korea. So
I like
there's
that.
the connection there.
I've always wondered, and I'm sure that maybe there's a couple other listeners, because most of us are East Coasters, I believe, who listen to this. What's like the determining factor between like a Kings fan and a Ducks fan? Because I've been to California like once in my life. It's all Southern California, like, to me.
That's a good question. I feel like a lot of Ducks fans probably like stuck onto them around their cup run in like 06 or 07 or whatever. Or like I think the reason my brother is a Ducks fan is because he's like a couple years older than me and grew up with the movies.
Okay.
So naturally it's like, oh yeah, sure.
That's fair.
I've seen that on
Gotcha.
TV before or whatever. But I always stuck with the Kings for whatever reason. My first jersey ever was a Brian Smolinski Kings jersey.
That's awesome.
Is it weird? I don't even know who that is. Like
exactly.
And I feel like I know every hockey player that's played the last like 30 years.
He
but I guess
was
not.
like he was a perfectly average guy who was on their third line, and I really liked him, I guess.
Okay, cool. Well, appreciate you sharing the hockey origin story. Let's hop into some Kings chat going on for this season. I did not know you were a season ticket holder. I just thought you were a super fan. So 1, that's really cool. 2, they play the Wild tonight, don't they?
They do. I'm headed there right after we finish up.
That should be a high scoring contest, in my opinion. What have been your thoughts on the Kings so far this season?
The goalies are bad.
Yeah, I can see
Well, yeah,
that.
why don't we start with the goaltending? I was specifically going to ask you about it because I mean, Quick is he's Jonathan Quick, but he's getting old, and Cal Peterson is.
Quick was great last year. He was very fun to watch. Played great. Peterson, I don't think I've ever been sold on him. It's funny to see like other past Kings backups go on and like have success, like Jack Campbell, although not really this year. Yeah. But Darcy Kemper, like all these dudes played for the Kings and never got a chance because of Quick, which is, I mean, obviously he was great for a very long time, but as a diehard Kings fan, I kind of hope they trade Quick.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Someone's going to be dumb enough to do it.
Do you see this team as a playoff team this year?
Yeah, it'll be close, but I think it can do it. Quick's not going to be this bad all year.
Mm-hmm. And
I mean, I think the like middle 6 on the Kings are no one cares about the Kings in general, because I feel like all of hockey media is focused on the East Coast.
Yeah,
But
most of it.
I think that Arvidsson Moore Deneau line is so good.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, even their fourth line, which is, I think they've been doing Lemieux, Grunstrom, and Lazat. I think Lazat is, no one,
I
no
rave
one
about
ever
Lazat.
thinks of, what did you say?
I rave about Lazat. I've watched. They
He's
played the
so
Penguins
good.
last year. Yeah, they played the Pens last year. One game, I was like, "Who is this guy?" And then I feel like maybe once every 3 shows, I'll bring him up. Like, oh, Blake
Dude,
Lazat.
undrafted, never played a game in the AHL, just works his
Dang.
ass off
I didn't
every
know
game.
that part. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Wild.
he's sick. I think Trevor Moore he's like my favorite player on the Kings right now, but he's so good. Like shorthanded as a penalty killer. He gets a breakaway like every game on the
I
PK.
am a big Trevor Moore truther for sure. He's definitely one of the more underrated players in the whole league.
He's so good. And it's like, I don't know if this has made it to the East Coast, but it's become like a recurring joke that he's from a town called Thousand Oaks, which is 2 towns over from where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be like, oh yeah. I like know kids that went to school with him. So I'm like, yes, he's
Oh,
like our guy. There's never any players from California.
The
yeah, local
hometown boy,
kid.
yeah.
Yeah,
Love
that's
that.
awesome. Well, I think it's I don't know if the word's funny, but I think that, the fact that you were talking about the goaltenders maybe being subpar so far, I'm looking right now and it looks like the Kings are third in the NHL, the third worst goals against. So they've given up the third most goals in the league this year. Only Columbus and Anaheim are ahead of them, but
Jeez.
they have scored the fourth most goals. So there's a lot of goals in these games with the Kings right now.
Maybe we should bet the over tonight.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I assume they're gonna let in 4 to 5 every night, which is brutal.
yeah.
It's like really tough, but it makes the game's really fun because I do think they're not like they're so not a flashy team. They don't have a star. Like, Kopitar is still awesome, but
Mhm.
who is like tuning in to watch Anze Kopitar at age 36 or whatever?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, cool, that guy's really responsible. Like,
Yeah. No, I get that.
So they're currently what, 7, 6, and 1. I think they're in. I mean, it's still early, obviously, but just for argument's sake, they're in third place in the division. You got to think that Seattle is going to regress at some point because they're behind Seattle, but you got to think that can't keep up all season long.
yeah, I saw one Seattle game. Speaking of teams that have no stars, like holy shit. Yeah, Beniers is good. Shane Wright barely exists.
Accurate at this point.
But no, I want to pull up the standings too and now look at it with you guys.
Yeah, that's fine. I had LA as my sleeper team coming into the year. I thought that they had a pretty good lineup in terms of like that. Doesn't seem like they have any weak links up front, maybe on the back end, but on like all 4 lines, they've got legit players.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, absolutely. I think even like Kaliev, that guy I think has one of like the most underrated shots
Oh yeah.
in the league. I'm
Kemp
extremely
too.
biased. But
Kempe.
yeah, Kempe, yeah, that guy is essentially turned into a second liner for them. But also like Iafalo's injured right now, and he's another just solid guy.
Mhm.
Yeah, it'll be good to get him back. Probably another couple weeks or so, I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, I think it was relatively short term.
What's your thoughts on the Quentin Byfield situation? I know he was out for a while, and then I think I saw that he's like going on like a rehab stint in the AHL now or something like that.
Yeah, he just got loaned back to the Reign. I think it's tough because those top couple lines are good. I feel like they got to throw him into the deep end a little bit. I don't know anything about like actual player development, but I'm like, you're not giving the dude enough minutes against tough enough,
Right.
opponents to kind of grow his game. But there are certain times where you can like see him on certain shifts, like whether it's a board battle or he'll get a breakaway, and you're like, oh man, this guy can go. But I don't feel like he gets enough opportunity to do that because he ends up being on the line with like Grundstrom and Lemieux or whoever, and he needs to play with better people.
Two names that we haven't mentioned yet, and I'm looking at the stats here. They're both leading your team in scoring, so I want to hear your thoughts on them so far. One being the big free agent acquisition, Kevin Fiala, and then another guy that our other member of the program, Nick, who's under the weather for this. He Gabe Velarde. He's been ranting about him all year long. What's been your thoughts on those two?
I love Gabe Velarde. I've been like, I mean, since I don't know if his first season was last year or the year before, but since the first time I saw him, he's been someone that I like have wanted to have more of a spot in the lineup. And he's no one is better like behind the net than him. I think if you watch any of his shifts, he posts up down real low. He's usually behind the net. He wins every puck battle, and he just never shot. Like he's had a bunch of crazy injury stuff. I think he hurt his back for like a full season. But now I don't know if they were like, hey, you should try, shooting the puck. But I think, I mean, what he has 9-10 goals already?
Yeah,
something like that.
9.
Yeah, and I mean, he seems to get on the score sheet.
It's legit
every game. I don't think he's going to be like a 30-40 goal guy, but
he's been playing minutes with all the big boys mostly though. So I mean, that helps.
Yeah, I think he's found the power play too, which is great. Fiala is interesting because I was really, really excited about it. I don't think it's like not a good fit or anything, but I haven't been blown away yet.
He's an interesting guy. We actually had a diehard Minnesota Wild fan on our YouTube channel for an interview, and it was like mixed reviews. Like, yeah, you can see it, but there's times where maybe he takes a couple shifts off,
Yeah, I mean, I like try to keep a close eye on him whenever I'm at games or even just watching on TV, but he's got wheels. Like he's very, very fast, can beat most people, but I haven't like felt his presence watching them, if that makes sense. Like when I'm trying to think of who, like when you see Trevor Moore or you're watching a shift that he's playing, you're like, oh shit, I know where that guy is. I can tell he's leaving an impact on it, but I don't know. He's not there yet for me.
Yeah, it might take a couple more games. I mean, maybe like at the 25 game mark, he'll find his comfort level. I mean, it's kind of crazy. We're already 14 games into the year, but at the same time, it's like we're only 14 games into the year,
Right. I mean, I think he's been playing. His line has been with Kopitar and Kempe, I think.
Yeah.
Which is great, but I feel like if you put him with, I mean, obviously Kopitar's like an amazing playmaker, but if you put him with Velarde or someone like Danault, I think it might be a better fit. But they don't want to break up the Danault-Arvidsson line because
I wouldn't. That's a gritty line.
It's so good. I think that's easily one of the best second lines in the league.
So I got to ask you, a couple nights ago, you were at the Saturday night game, right, where the Kings hosted the Panthers. That was kind of a crazy game, back and forth, and it's also the game where Tkachuk got his suspension for high sticking Jonathan Quick. What was the atmosphere like in the arena while all that shit was going on?
It was a little tense. It's hard to know in situations like that, like exactly, you're not hearing what they're reviewing. I saw that Quick got hit. I wasn't sure if he got elbowed or something, because that is also something Tkachuk would do.
Even looking at the replay, it's like super subtle, and it was like I had to watch it like 3 times to like see where he like twists it in
just
there.
Flicks him a little bit.
Yeah, it's so weird, but like clearly it had a big effect. I mean, Quick like went down pretty hard, and I mean, all the announcers were like freaking out about it.
Oh, really?
TV. Yeah.
Well, it's I was also at the game last season where Lemieux bit Brady Tkachuk.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
But no one knew. Obviously when you look at the replays, it's like very clear what he's saying in the box and like exactly what he's communicating. But it just looked like a scrum, and they sent Lemieux off, and Brady Tkachuk is complaining, which is classic.
And probably the whole stadium's like booing because they're like, "What the hell?" Like,
no, like it was not communicated. It's not like you get a penalty for biting. So it was actually kind of similar to that, where we're like, what's the big deal here? But also, I mean, game was over at that point. It was in the last
Yeah.
like or so.
Actually, I think it was Gabe Velarde that scored the game winner in that one.
From a tough angle. Yeah, no, that was a great game.
It's a hell of a memory. So we've talked a decent amount about the offense, which obviously is clicking. We've talked about the goaltending. I'm just curious what your thoughts maybe back on the blue line are. Obviously, Doughty's the big name there, and then everybody else I feel like gets lost in the shuffle. Is there any names that pop out on the blue line that maybe people should watch out for?
Yes. So Doughty's been good. I think Mikey Anderson's great as like a guy who will never have recognition or get he gets crazy minutes, but like he's not running the power play because that's Doughty.
Every team needs a defenseman like that that's just going to be like no name, but like do their job.
Right. I mean, you probably love Nick Jensen.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Anderson's great. Love him. Matt Roy is like kind of sneaky physical. He'll put people down. Dursey is interesting. I don't know if you guys pay any attention to that guy. He's like he's great in fits and starts. Like he'll try to like walk the line and do Cale Makar shit and then turn it over and it'll lead to a goal. But sometimes he pulls it off and it's great. And like he's very aggressive when he pinches in, which again is cool if you have someone to back you up. But there was a game I went to, actually the first game of the season. They played the Knights on opening night. And it was like, I think it was tied with about 30 seconds left. He spent 10 seconds behind his own net trying to set up a play, turned it over. Kings lost in the last 20 seconds of the game.
Oof.
It was like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it was all because he was like trying to do something above his skill level.
Do too much. Yeah.
Yeah. That said, he's good for the most part. He just every time he makes a mistake, it's like glaring.
Yeah.
God, who's on the third pair for them right now? It's Edler and Clark, right?
Alex Edler's still playing hockey. I actually had no clue.
It is Edler. Daily Faceoff has it as Sean Walker, but I'm sure they probably sub him in and out.
They've been rotating out. Brent Clark has been playing he's I think 5th overall this year.
Right.
I was gonna say he's like one of the young gun prospects, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's been good. I mean, he hasn't been noticeable, which is good.
That's a good thing. Yeah, it's like playing safety in football.
Exactly, and he's been playing with Edler, who I mean, honestly, Edler's solid. Okay. Like he destroyed his ankle last year at a game I was at, and I mean, I saw it. I was like, that he's not going to come back. Was he going to heal his ankle and come back at age 60 or whatever? But no, he's been solid. And then they have a couple of guys that they swap out at the bottom of the lineup. It's like Clark, Walker. I don't think Jordan Spence has played yet, but he's solid. But I don't think Bjornfoot has played this year either, but he's an amazing skater. But that's about it.
So all in all, I mean, I'm trying to gather how you feel about the Kings, and I think you feel kind of good, but you don't want to say it outright. So do you I mean, I know Mac asked if you think they're a playoff team. I mean, what does your heart tell you?
I think they're a playoff team. I'm looking at the Pacific right now.
Okay.
Seattle's going to drop. Edmonton and Calgary will stay within 2 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're probably a wild card team.
Yeah.
Which is fine because I mean they took the Oilers 7 games.
Right.
Like,
right.
They can win a game.
Yeah.
Or win a series, I mean. It's early. It's early.
Yeah, it is.
I really want them to not be letting in 4, 5, 6 goals a game.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. And I have to put you on the spot just because this is empty better. So I need that score prediction for the Wild Kings game tonight so I know what I should or should not be betting.
Oh man.
Just
I'll
from
take
the hip.
Kings. All right, let's say 5-3 Kings with an empty net.
Love it. I'm on. Okay.
Love it.
Mac, it's the over for our listeners.
There we go.
Man, I hope I nail that. Jeez.
If you do, we'll definitely clip this and you'll look like a guru. So that'll be nice.
All right, one last thing, because this is a jersey loving podcast, and I know you've expressed your disdain for the Kings' normal uniforms. So I got to get your opinion. Like, what's their best jersey? What do you think of the reverse retro? And what's so bad about the normal kits?
All right, I am a full jersey nerd, like big time.
Mostly me and Nick are like the big jersey nerds here, but Harry will play ball.
I reverse retro is great. What else are you gonna do? It's purple and gold, great. I mean, that logo is classic. I don't think I don't mind the crown logo from like the early 2000s or the shield with the cross sticks. But I think that's too recent for them to pull the reverse retro thing. The current logo is so boring. Like
It's bad.
It's tough because I feel like they've brought back the alternate jersey with like the chevron logo, Gretzky era. I think that jersey's great. It's got the silver around the sleeves, silver helmets that people have strong feelings about.
How do you feel about the Chrome Dome? I have to ask.
I'm down. Why not?
I'm down with it too.
It does make them look like you're playing EA NHL.
Yeah.
Watching on TV.
You were claiming they look better in person, right?
I think they do.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I think the crest on that one is like shiny. I have that jersey and I love it. But I mean, they just need to go back to that logo, I think, full time.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like everyone is just kind of falling back to whatever they did in the 90s, which is probably better, I would think.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like if you keep silver and black as your main ones, it's got to be like the Gretzky logo. But if you don't, you got to have purple in there somehow. I agree with you.
I feel like they're hesitant to like shift it away from the current one because they won those 2 cups like with the like these uniforms, and they're like, they don't want to like turn over the leaf of that era yet. But like they were pretty good like with Gretzky too. So I mean, I don't know.
I think if you flipped that current alternate and just made it black with the same silver sleeves, made that your home and away set, and they have that other like weird gray alternate that it has the same logo, but yeah, make that your third jersey. That's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. It's better, but
I give LA credit. They worked the Chrome Dome way better than Vegas ever worked that like golden dome. Those were
that
awful.
much I agree with.
The Vegas ones are tough because I feel like that actual like metallic gold isn't. I guess they have it on the jersey. I don't know.
It's weird. Vegas is weird. It's okay.
Yeah. They are weird. I still haven't been to a game in Vegas. I'm trying to do that, and I want to go to the Mullet Arena this year. I got to plan a trip for that.
I would love to do that too. That'd be so
I
fun.
did one game in Vegas because I have family out there, and I saw them. I think they played the Canucks. This was like right before COVID. Highly recommend. Just the location is perfect.
Yeah, I was in Vegas a couple months ago and like I was just walking down the strip and someone was like, "Oh yeah, there's the arena," and it's like tucked behind buildings and you can't really tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to a game in Nashville next week too, which I'm excited about. I'm trying to.
Oh, that'll be awesome.
That'll be sweet.
They're also playing the Wild, so.
Yeah, I gotta get to more NHL arenas. It's like I'm gonna try to get to as many as I can before I leave this earth one day. That's kind of my bucket list. So we'll see. But Morgan, we really appreciate you joining us and filling us in on some LA Kings happenings. Obviously, we like to get some West Coast stuff in here, given our East Coast bias. So we appreciate it.
We'll get you back on to preview the playoffs when they make it.
Oh, don't put that kind of pressure on me, but I'll do it.
All right, man.
Thanks,
Sounds
guys.
good. Thank you. Big thanks to Morgan for coming on the podcast. It was a pleasure talking to him and getting to know him. And I definitely enjoy hearing what West Coast hockey fans are all about. And I always think it's cool to hear the hockey origin story. His was pretty unique.
Yeah, it was a fun one. And I echo what you said and what I said earlier in the episode too. Definitely fun to chat with some fans of NHL fan bases that we don't get to chat with that much.
That's the Miller Lite speaking.
Yeah, that's true.
Just a quick injury update. Andre Palat of the New Jersey Devils out 8 to 10 weeks. That sucks. The NHL 3 stars of the week this past week, the Dallas Stars left winger Jason Robertson coming in at number 1. Colorado Avalanche center Nathan McKinnon coming in at number 2. And the San Jose Sharks defenseman Erik Karlsson coming in at number 3. Not going to touch on too much gambling. I would honestly encourage all of you to go follow us on Twitter. We tweet out all of the trends that we see, our picks for the nights over on Twitter. So definitely go give that a follow. We're trying to incorporate like a segment where maybe it's not just reading stats. We get a little more interactive with it. So until we figure that out, in the meantime, go follow us on Twitter. It's my best advice. And we're going to do a little power ranking update. This is something that we want to start including maybe instead of the stud or dud segment.
Which, by the way, if you told me that this was the 5 teams we're about to say here, if you told me that these are the 5 best teams in the NHL after a month, like when we did our season previews, I would have told you were fucking crazy. But that's the world we live in.
The top 4 teams, I'm pretty sure all of us unanimously said are missing the playoffs. So
we literally did.
There's that one. So coming in, we'll start at the bottom. Coming in at number 5, and this is what me and Mac put together. This isn't anybody else's list. Coming in at number 5, we got the Carolina Hurricanes. They're sick. They're really good. They're exactly as what we thought advertised. Freddie Anderson looks great. The defense is solid.
Ranta has come in and won the games that he's needed to win.
They've got depth out the ass up front. They're a wagon. There's no doubt about that. Coming in at number 4. I don't know how. And Mac,
this one's insane.
Why? Me and Mac bashed them, and Nick said that they couldn't get their shit together and before the season started. But the Dallas Stars somehow.
Why are they good? I don't understand. I mean, Ottinger is good, and Jason Robertson is good, but like I don't get why Sagan and Ben are still good. I really wanted to believe that those guys are like just done.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I don't know how much you are into like advanced analytics. There's a Twitter page that I follow called J Fresh Hockey. Mm-hmm. He's really good.
I'm familiar.
And there's some like 5-on-5 goals expected over average or some shit. I don't know. 2 of the top 5 were Rupe Hintz and Jason Robertson.
Yep.
And I was like, okay.
No, it's true. Hintz is good too. It's a weirdly deep team. I mean, don't forget they were in the Stanley Cup Finals. Granted, it was like, kind of a Mickey Mouse year, but they were there not too long ago.
And another guy who's really stepped up there, Mason Marchment. He's been really good for them. I think he's leading them in goals too. So yeah, Dallas looks good. They're first place in the Central Division and they're cruising. I can't believe this team at number 3, but the New Jersey Devils are the hottest team in hockey right now. I think they're on a 7-game heater at the moment.
And what a weird situation too, right? Because they've got Palat, who's now out for like 8 to 10 weeks, last I heard. They've got Mac Blackwood, who came out swinging out of the gates, and I was like, oh, was I wrong about this guy, that he's not terrible? Because he actually had a few really good games to start the season, and then he had a couple bad games, and then now he's like hurt, and I'm not sure for how long, but it's not like day to day.
Mm-hmm.
But Vanacek has been playing well for them in net, and I don't know. I mean, we'll see how long that one lasts, because again, it's the Metro, tricky division, and with those injuries that might set them back a little bit, but props to them. They're at 3rd in the NHL a month in.
And one name that you gotta, keep your ears open for, Jesper Bratt. I mean, he's been lights out for the Devils. He's in the MVP conversation at this moment in time with McDavid. Maybe with, I'm trying to like, who's another player that could probably get thrown in there? I mean, McKinnon's probably always in there. He's top notch. He looks great. So Jesper Bratt for the Devils.
Big time.
Keep your eyes open for him. Number 2, Mac's new favorite team, the Vegas Golden Knights, led by Logan Thompson, their rookie goaltender. He looks really good.
Legend.
Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, all the guys are clicking. VGK. I would honestly say me and Mac might flip-flop. I think Mac would have the Bruins 1, Vegas 2. I might flip-flop those. I think Vegas
Yeah.
might be the best team in the league right now.
I mean, I would like to say that they are because fuck the Bruins, but the Bruins, like, no one can beat them. I know they have the exact same record as Vegas at this current moment in time. But they just look so unbeatable every time they're out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know this. I'd have to look at their schedules so far side by side, but I tend to think that the East has some trickier opponents a lot of the time. So I'd give the advantage to the Bruins for that reason, because I'd imagine they've probably played a couple of harder games, but that might not be true.
No, I think that might be fair. It's a 1-2 race between VGK and Boston right now, so you can't really go wrong with either. Mac, I'm gonna toss it off to you for the Washington Capitals State of the Union, which I love the 2-word title that you have for them in our notes right here.
Yeah, they're weird. They're a strange hockey team so far. I don't know what to think. I mean, we literally have everybody in the world injured right now. Like, let me just pull up this list because it's actually pretty comical to just read it off like the way it is. But while I'm pulling that up, I can talk about a couple other things. The Oilers game the other night was a little bit encouraging. I mean, we still let in a lot of goals, but it's also the Oilers. And I mean, there was a lot of good. There was a lot of good that I saw. I thought Ovi looked really, really good. Might have been his best game of the year. Kuznetsov finally woke up. I mean, he has been a ghost all season long. And I know I'm hard on him. It's only been a month, but come on. He's supposed to be like our best player our best center with Backstrom out, maybe even with Backstrom in. And he just hasn't been there. But last night he had 3 points. He had a couple of really nice goals. Ovi's between the legs pass. That was
sick.
Unbelievable. I can't believe he's 37 and still doing that shit. But what I'm most excited about is some of these guys that we've kind of picked up here. We've got Sonny Milano all of a sudden, and he's only played 2 games, but I've really liked what I've seen. And now all of a sudden we've got Nick Aube-Kubel, who I think he's a hell of a forechecker. He's a tough son of a bitch. He just kind of
Stanley Cup champ.
Stirs the pot. Yeah, he is Stanley Cup champ. But no, I mean, he's only played that 1 game, but I like what I saw from him. I like both of those pickups. I think it adds a lot of depth. Here's the injured list. And this is funny. This literally sounds like I'm reading out like a team or like an MVP like candidate situation or something. Everyone I'm about to say is like injured like somewhat badly for the Capitals. Dmitry Orlov, Nick Backstrom, Connor Brown, Tom Wilson, Beck Malenstein, Carl Hagelin, John Carlson, TJ Oshie. They're all
Jesus
out. Literally every
Christ.
single one of them is out with like more serious than day-to-day as their diagnosis.
What's Carlson's deal? I don't understand. He was
See,
day-to-day.
He was day-to-day, but now he's missed like 4 games. So I'm like, that's basically week to week at that point because he's been out for like a week. So I don't know.
Kemper goes down.
Yeah, honestly.
No, he's had some injuries in the past.
We might not need him. Chucky Lindgren looks like a freaking beast.
Yeah,
so.
your boy.
Yeah, I don't know. They're a weird team. I'm glad we got that because I think we had lost like 3 in a row. So I'm glad we got that Oilers win.
Only 3. That's nice.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I'm glad we got the Oilers win because what I didn't want was to play the Penguins with both of us on a massive losing streak and like one of them gonna continue it. So
yeah, well, that game's happening tomorrow night. I'm sure you and I will have some fun.
I'm not ready for it. Like, why? I don't want the Caps Penguins matchup to happen yet.
No, I don't either, and for good reason because the Pittsburgh Penguins might be the coldest. Not might be. They are the coldest team in the league right now. They've lost 7 straight games as of this recording. Dropped a huge game on Saturday night against the Seattle Kraken. I put up a blog on the Daily Goal Horn with a bunch of stats and details that I don't really feel like going into because my heart hurts and I don't want to talk about it. So if you want to go hear my thoughts about advanced analytics and all that, you can go read that article. But I'll leave you with two thoughts. Brian Dumoulin is the worst player in the NHL. Cut him and send him to space. We
Oh
do
my
not
God.
need him. He's dead
Send
to
him
me.
to space.
He is dead to me. Listen, it was fun in 2016 when we were winning cups and he had his
Wow.
jersey up like he was like Ezekiel Elliott, like chugging Bud Lights. That was
Oh
fun,
my
Brian. I had a good
God.
time doing that with you. But you suck now, so we need to figure out a way to get your contract off our books. And the other guy that I just can't fucking stand because I give him a chance and he just never takes it and runs with it is Kasperi Kapanen. He has 3 goals in his last 50 games as a Penguin. We got this guy thinking he was going to be the replacement for Phil Kessel when he left, and he's done absolutely nothing. He's going to be a healthy scratch tomorrow night against the Caps based on the practice lines today, and thank God because he's absolutely useless.
Well, it seems like they've given him time after like chance
Oh.
after chance where they're like, all right, this is his last year where he really has to prove himself, or else we're gonna cut ties with him.
He just has no confidence,
and then they just say that every year.
To make it worse, like they just signed him to a 2-year deal over the summer, and he's making $3 million a year. It's like, what the fuck was Hextall smoking? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. But anyways, the Penguins posted a picture of him when he cut his hair and said, "New hair, new Cappy." And I commented, "Please God." And then nothing happened after that. And I was like, I guess nothing's going to change. So
wow.
whatever. The Pens, they got to turn it around sooner than later. I'm not hitting panic button yet, but I'm really close. I think if we don't beat Washington, something big is going to happen. I don't know what it is, but you can't lose 8 in a row to a rival like that. You just can't.
Well, this is exactly why I don't want the Caps Penguins matchup to come right now, because I want to see the Penguins keep struggling. And I feel like this is exactly the type of game that they need to like give
Turn
them
it
the
around.
like jolt of energy to like be like, hey, wake the fuck up. You have a big game to play that you don't want to lose. And I feel like they'll find a way to win.
And Chris Letang's been bad. He's been really bad. I think he's like a -10 in his last 5 games. He's been brutal. I mean, even like, Sid, like he hasn't really been playing that well. They took Raquel off his line and they switched it with Rust. And he was playing so good with Raquel, and now Raquel sucks with Malkin. And I don't really know what Sullivan's thinking. I could go on and on, but it's just a disaster. They need to win in Washington real bad. You can't drop 8 in a row. That's just not acceptable.
Usually you and I cook
mortgage
up some sort of fucking bet with these games, but I'm not sure I have enough confidence to even bet on the Caps right now.
I need someone to stop me from putting my life savings on the Pens tomorrow because it's going to be a pick 'em.
Who do you think is going to be favored? Yeah, I was going to say it's probably going to be like -110 a piece or something like that.
It's going to be close.
Maybe you guys will get the advantage because we have so many injuries.
I was thinking they might give us.
You guys have lost 7 in a row, so like
Vegas loves us. They love to make us huge favorites. If we're anything like -120 or better, I might hammer the shit out of that. Not because I think we're going to win, but I'm just like, they got to win eventually. Like,
yeah.
So
it is that mode where it's like money line every night until they win because it's not going to go on that much longer.
I'm lucky that I wasn't stupid because when they played Seattle on Sunday or Saturday, it was like -210, and I was like, oh, you know what? Like maybe I'm just gonna do it. Like,
yeah,
they're not gonna lose 7 in a row at home off of 3 days rest to the Kraken. And then sure as shit.
I mean, I would have thought they would have won that game too, but all right.
Anyways, I'm done there. Let's hope by next week's recording that I'm a little more on the positive side of things. But Mac, if you don't have any further notes, I think we're just about done.
Yeah, I think that'll do it for me.
Yeah, it's been a busy week.
It has.
Nick being
Only
out,
Tuesday.
it's weird. Like with 2 people, I will say it's a strange thing. Like we've gotten so used to you being on the pod after like 2 years. It's a little weird.
Yeah. No, I totally feel that.
Nick, we miss you. Hoping you're feeling better. And yeah, definitely just go follow us on Twitter. That's my best advice. We're always talking gambling stuff over there. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, anything, you name it. Social media bios have all the Kane footwear ads as we were talking. And that's about it. So thank you everybody for listening. And without further ado,
Class dismissed.